you?
Yep.
Okay, great, great, great,
Go ahead.
great. So what was the first question was how did I find Tom
Yeah,
King?
where did you meet Tom King?
Yeah.
How'd you come about us?
I bumped into, so I had been doing some research and I bumped into a woman in the Whole Foods parking lot who had her dog, her Tom King dog, and she just could not say enough things about, the kennel. So I immediately went to my car and looked it up on my iPhone and started making contact. And it was probably maybe 4 months before I got Lola. I had picked out a dog, and then I told Jerry what characteristics I was looking for, and he said, "Oh, I have another dog. I think you're going to like more." So that's how I got Lola. And then 2 years later, I got Winnie. And I used the broker with Lola, and I did not use the broker with Winnie, and that was a mistake. I didn't have any major hitches, but I was just real anxious about her delivery. So I would strongly recommend the broker. What was your second question?
Second question. And to mention that just real quick to follow up, Helen, to interrupt you, sorry about the broker that we use it's Claudia. Is that who you used?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was great.
We've been working with Unity Custom Brokers for many, many years. And that's one of the things that you bring up that I wanted to elaborate on for some of our would-be parents. But it's very, very important that when you're going to pick up your fur baby, there is a lot of anxiety just meeting the first time and the delivery and the schedule and being in the right place and having the paperwork done. But there's enough things to worry about that you don't need to be worrying about all the paper. And so that broker is something that can really make the whole process a lot smoother for you and take a lot of the anxiety and worries away. So it's something that we also recommend.
Somebody just asked what's the difference between using the broker and not using the broker. When you use the broker, she basically just tells you where to show up and stand. When you don't use the broker, you have to figure that out for yourself. And a man at the airport, when I picked Lola up, convinced me that I didn't need a broker. So the second time I didn't use Claudia, and that was a mistake because I was just anxious all day. Did she get on the flight? Will she be in on time? And Claudia handled all that. So, I would strongly recommend the broker.
Yeah. Well, thank you for elaborating on that because it is a very important point for.
Yeah.
So the second question is, go ahead, sir.
Well, it was very worth the money for the broker. It wasn't, all that much.
Yeah. So the second question is, what were your concerns and how did you overcome them?
I think my biggest concern was, would the puppy be able to tolerate the flight? And all the people at your place assured me that they would. And then I read the stories on the Facebook page, and that reassured me. And I never thought the kennel was a scam. I never, when I would write, it would just be almost instantaneous response. And, there was a time difference, but I never had anything but just very credible, excellent follow through. So, I wasn't worried about anybody being a scam artist. So I think it was just, will this dog arrive and will they be alive and, all of that. So,
the important stuff, right?
Yeah, right. Right.
Okay. The last question for you, Helen. What tips do you have for people who are thinking about joining the Tom Kings family?
Yeah, I think people should do their, just like everybody else has said, you should do your own research and come to your own conclusions. And very much like Debbie said, they are a lot of work in the beginning, establishing a routine and you really need to have the time to devote to them. Both of mine came in the Thanksgiving, Christmas window, and I'm a teacher, so I was off during that time. So that was just a perfect time for me. I had almost not quite a month, but about 3.5 weeks to spend with them, and that was real important. And I had to drive from North Carolina. I picked up both my dogs at Dulles, so that was a 5-hour trip. And I would definitely encourage you, if you have to drive to pick them up, that you need to take 2 people with you. That was very helpful.
Well, what was the to elaborate on that, Helen? What was the benefit of 2 people? Is it the driving part of it?
Well, no, not so much the driving, but when at Dulles, when you go into the cargo area and you declare you're there to pick up the pup, and you wait until the paperwork comes over. And then because the particular flight the dog is on is later at night, there's nobody there from customs. So you have to go back over to the main terminal. And in both situations, my family member drove me back over there and just stayed on the curb with the car while I went in and got the credentials stamped, which only took about 5 minutes. And then got back in the car and drove back to cargo. And by the time I got back to cargo, the dogs had been unloaded. So the logistics of it just really helped.
Okay.
Dulles is a big airport, so it helped having a second person.
Yeah. And since most of the airports that we fly into initially to go through the customs are the majors, the JFKs and the Dulles and LAX. So it probably is advisable for everybody to have a co-pilot so that you guys can yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I did exactly what you all said. I took a box cutter, I took baby wipes, a harness, a leash, some water, a little bit of food. Neither one were interested in eating, but they both drank. And then we spent the night in the Washington, D.C. area. And as soon as we got to the hotel, both dogs ate, and then they just conked out. Winnie was a lot smellier than Lola. Lola was great, but Winnie had quite a bit of a stench to her. So when we got to the hotel, I gave her a bath. And I had everything for that. I was prepared. But, and they slept all night. They were very tired. And the next morning they kind of rallied. And then we got in the car. It's a 5-hour drive back to North Carolina, and they both conked out then. It took them about 24 hours, I would say, before they started acting like themselves. And I had already, and I strongly recommend this, I had already booked a vet appointment. So as soon as we got home, they both went to the vet to be checked out. And I think that was real helpful. Both of the vets, I used a different vet for each one of them because I changed. And both of them said they were 2 of the prettiest Frenchies they had seen.
Awesome. Well, I guess I would have one other follow-up question and this is something that Helen had mentioned, but Debbie or even Helen, is there anything that you would say that during the pickup and I know you maybe have brought this to the attention before, but is there anything that we didn't advise you of that you would recommend that somebody brings?
No, I communicated back to you all with Winnie. I guess when they overnighted in, I can't remember where they overnighted. They must have taken out the bedding, the shredded paper. So when Winnie got here, she had no paper. So she had literally just been setting in her pee and poop. Lola had a lot of paper, and Jerry told me that is not customary for them to remove that shredded paper. So no, there wasn't anything. I think you need to have a leash and you need to have a harness. I have a collar on both of mine, but it's basically just to hold their tags. I use harnesses. I don't use collars to lead them around.
Okay.
But no, I was very well prepared.
Good. Well, thank you, Helen. We appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Debbie, did you have anything that you might wanted to add there, or?